We have warned for decades. The first report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has been published in 1990, and in principle, everything has been written there. And I mean, it's a very simple physical principle that as the Earth warms, the atmosphere can hold more water vapor, and this is latent energy, as we say. And so if rainy weather, if severe weather is expected, okay, then the extreme rainfall can even become more extreme. And this is what we are seeing here. And so all we can say is that climate change is with us. It's not in the future. It's right there, not only in Germany, not only in Belgium, not in Europe, worldwide.
With us right here, you say, Mujib. I mean, essentially, you argue that we have reached our capacity when it comes to adapting. There's very little room to manoeuvre once we're at this stage.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are always asked how good our predictions are. And I keep saying that there are, of course, uncertainties with regard to the predictions, and that climate models are not perfect. So there is a limit to predictability. But on the other hand, there is also a limit to adaptation. And this is what we are seeing right now. If rainfall is too strong, people can't really adapt anymore, and then things like what we are now observing in Western Germany are happening, and we can't really do anything about it.
I mean, if we think back to the summer of 2019, many of us will remember, extreme temperatures, very, very dry condition. How do we explain this shift then from such intense heat to, flooding that the country hasn't seen in decades now?
Yeah, I mean, these are the two sides of one coin, and this coin is global warming. So my first book that I wrote in 2003 is entitled Record Flood and Heat Waves. Okay, and so our models predict exactly this. It may be that in 1 year we have extremely warm conditions. We had an all-time high in 2019, the highest temperature that has been ever measured in Germany at 41.2 degrees. But on the other hand, we had so much record-breaking floods in the last decades during this century, although these kinds of floods should occur only once a century, okay? And so once again, we are facing more extreme weather, and it will become even more severe in the future as global warming continues.
I just want to get your thoughts on one thing. The German Chancellor today has spoken from Washington, which is relatively rare, and said, look, we are, 100% behind the victims of this. We'll stand by them. When it comes to politics, do you think enough is being done? Are declarations after the fact, for example, this extreme flooding, enough, or do we need to be taking more precautions far sooner?
Well, the big problem is that climate change is a global problem. And so all countries need to act. Just one example. So China, for instance, contributes about 1/3 to the global CO2 emissions. The United States, another 15% or so. And if we look at the global CO2 emissions, and CO2, carbon dioxide, is the main gas with respect to global warming, then since 1990, I mean, since the first report of the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and since the topic is very high on the political agenda, the CO2 emissions, the global CO2 emissions have increased by 60%, 60. And so this shows that so far, at least, the world's nations haven't really taken climate change seriously.